Green bean casserole is a classic American dish with green beans, cut green beans, canned or frozen, mushroom soup, white mushroom sauce soup. Then you can throw in cheese, grated cheese, cheddar preferably, a little bit of milk, and then put onions, fried onions on the top that have already been fried.
Yeah, I tried making it once. I remember I
Mhm.
was trying to fry onions, but I never got the appeal of the dish. It's like beans and
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to have those combination. You have to have the mushroom soup really helps, and the cheese,
okay.
and
That's
the fried. You can fry the onions yourself, but the brand name one is called French's, I think, and they also do
Okay.
soups and things like that. They're
Well, I
really.
doubt I can get them in the Vera.
I doubt it too, but well, I don't know. You might look around. So I mean, I found agave syrup on my last trip in Macedonia, which
Yeah,
I
yeah.
needed to make a cocktail, and I was surprised to find it. So it was in Teanex in one of the what's it called health food sections.
Yeah, we are too poor to buy maple syrup, and I noticed for years now we had a lot of. You'll have the maple syrup,
Hmm.
but it's like 10 euros here for a small bottle.
Right.
It's a bit much. And then you'll have all the like agave. I never tried agave. We import from Iran some kind of like an alternative, like date uh, syrup,
Hmm.
I guess. So that's like people sometimes use that instead of. Fortunately, we don't use uh, corn syrup,
Right.
like the worst thing. But maple syrup is too expensive, so we buy these middle range alternatives.
Well, good.
We're recording,
Yes,
right?
I'm recording. Okay, yeah. So should
Okay,
we
let's start.
let's have ourselves a pod
Yeah, we can
let's
just
let's have
continue.
ourselves a podcast, as James Lilac says on the Ricochet
Yeah.
podcast. So uh all right, I think I've got
This is the Macedonian Content Farmers podcast, and the person giving advice on culinary issues is Jason Miko from the foot of the Catalina Mountains in Oro Valley, Arizona.
yeah, but I've got a prepared monologue.
Okay, sorry,
That's
sorry, sorry.
okay.
Okay,
So yeah,
well,
in three,
go ahead with your
in
monologue.
three,
Sure.
two, one. He, Davidovich, was also implicated in the scandal that led to the arrest of Macedonia Government Secretary General Dragi Raskovsky, a top lieutenant of former Macedonia Prime Minister Zoran Zaev. Raskovsky allegedly received a bribe from Davidovich in order to have a meeting with Prime Minister Zaev to advance Davidovich's business interests. Close quote. So reads a press release from the United States Department of Treasury dated November 16, 2023. Granted, we left out the N word in that quote, but you get the point. It appears that Zoran Zaev really is no longer the useful idiot that the U.S. State Department took him to be, and is now getting even closer to being charged with corruption. Unfortunately for him and all of Macedonia, various Dewey officials, prime among them Artan Grubi and Ali Ahmeti, will not be touched for a long time due to their continuing usefulness as idiots to the U.S. State Department. Perhaps intra-Albanian crime and murder will get them one day. We'll discuss all of this and more in this episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers podcast. I'm Jason Miko, coming to you from the foot of the Catalina Mountains in Oro Valley, Arizona.
And this is Cvetin Chilimanov in Skopje,
There we
Macedonia.
go. All right, that was our proper intro. So,
Yeah.
in addition to the discussion of fine American staple foods at Thanksgiving time, so
Cuisine.
we are, and the reason we're talking about that is because this is just a few days after American Thanksgiving. It's Sunday, November 26th, and this is episode, I think it's 164 of the Macedonian Content Farmers podcast. I'm just coming off of a long 4-day weekend here in Arizona. Finally getting a little bit cooler. We had some good rain, although I see that
Uh-huh.
you guys have just got dumped on with snow in Macedonia.
Yeah, we finally got into wintertime. It was otherwise very, very warm until like a week ago. It
Nice,
was
nice.
unseasonably warm.
Oh, okay.
Well, I didn't like it. Kept getting sick, and
Oh, okay. Well, it's better to be
I
cold.
mean, it makes no sense.
Better to be cold.
Uh, just like to have whatever the season is,
Right. Yeah. Well.
to be in season.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And now now we're all playing Christmas music full blast, and it's got to be cold.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
oh well. Let's see. We got a whole list of items to start with. or to go through today. But let's just start with so the U.S.
with the intro.
State Department, the U.S. Treasury Department actually is the one that puts these things out. These lists of the naughty list, let's call it, since we're close to getting closer to Christmas. They put out their naughty list of people in various countries that they accuse of corruption, and this means that the people named cannot own property in America, cannot visit America, etc., etc. A number of Macedonians have already been put on this list in the past, and this is something that the U.S. Ambassador Angela Aguilar has been talking about since she arrived. It finally happened, I think maybe a year and a half ago was the first time somebody was put on the list under her watch. I think Nikola Grevsky and some others have been under there for some time. But the mayor of Struga, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was a DUI official, was put on there.
Mirko.
But he's still mayor, right? He didn't resign or anything.
No,
yeah,
no,
of course
no.
not. Why?
He was removed from the party. Not even removed. He suspended his membership in the party, like the lowest rant of penalty he could face.
Yeah. Well, so now, and this Davidovich, who I mentioned there, is a Montenegrin, actually. This is not a Macedonian. There were a number of other officials from Macedonia on there, but this is the first time that Zoran Zaev's name has shown up in one of these statements. So it does appear that, he's getting closer to being at least charged with corruption by the United States, if not by the Macedonian government, which we'll see because of the intra-Citisa fighting going on in Macedonia, which you can probably explain better than I can.
Yeah, it was so far everybody who was put on the blacklist are the usual people you would expect the U.S. government to put on a blacklist. It was Gruevski, Myalkov, Orza Kamchev, who was financially involved with VMRO. The mayor of Struga was an outlier because I guess with all the reports of corruption in DUI, the U.S. embassy wanted to send a message that they're not just going after VMRO and coddling SDSM and DUI all the time. They were supposed to go after the big oil trader, what was his name, from the Putsko Petrol Company, who is one of the biggest businessmen in the country now with the help of DUI, but they left him out and decided to go for a lower level DUI official. So far it was all, one-way traffic, completely partisan, completely, uncritically supportive of SDSM and DUI, and attacking VMRO, what you would expect from the U.S. embassy to do. But the latest report, again, it was the usual people. It was Kamchev's mother now. They're expanding the list. It was Samsonenko was on the list, and his wife, the Russian Macedonian businessman who made Vardar champions of Europe in handball, who was building a large hotel in downtown Skopje, invested in gambling and sports a lot. So because he's Russian, of course. Making VMRO linked with the Russians, we're going after them. So all usual one-way traffic. But then if you go to the Montenegro section, so there were people from Bosnia, Serbia, Macedonia, and Montenegro put on the list. And when you go to Montenegro, it was this businessman from Montenegro who's smuggling cigarettes, oil, guns, also linked with Russia, etc. But who was recorded talking to this mobster person, extortionist close to SDSM in Macedonia, Zoki Kičovec, famous from the major racket scandal, which brought down Katica Janeva. And in this conversation, Daka, the Montenegrin businessman who is now on the blacklist, is heard saying, he's asked, do I come and meet Zaev again? Do you want to come and see him over the business you were discussing? And he says, no, come on, every time I go. Him and Dragi Rashkovsky, Zaev's secretary, they keep asking me for more money. They say it's for their referendum to change the name, that I'm funding their referendum campaign with my donations. They're taking the money, obviously. The businessman is angry that his business he wants to advance in Macedonia is not going well. And it was VMRO revealed that Davidovich was trying to build a huge residential and business center in Titovo at the site of an old furniture factory, and he was meeting Zaev to have the zoning permits issued more quickly, and he was paying hefty bribes for this. And even after the tapes were made public, the Council of Titovo met and approved the development as Davidovich wanted, and Zaev was asked, like, dude, but this person was recorded talking about you, that he's giving you money for this deal, and how can you actually go ahead with this plan after you've been found out that you're corrupt? And Zaev defended the deal. He said, yes, of course, this is good for the business. This will be hundreds of millions in investments. We are going ahead with this. And Vimera were pointing out to this, saying that, look, Zaev is in bed with a Montenegrin businessman who everybody knows in the region is person close to the Russian government and was allegedly involved in this attempted coup in Montenegro, if you remember, around the time of the Colored Revolution. They had a coup attempt there. So the blacklist does not put Zaev on the list, but he's mentioned as a corrupt contact in one of the persons put on the list from Montenegro, put on the list for his Russian ties, which is extremely damaging for Zaev. And also extremely damaging is that he's mentioned at all. As you said, it's obvious that the US government is sending out a very strong message about him, and that he's like in the waiting room of the blacklist.
Yes.
So it's a big development.
Yeah, and Rashkovsky is in jail. Is he in jail now?
He's charged. I think he's in house arrest. The blacklist said that he was charged over this. That is not true. They use the term lieutenant, Zaev's lieutenant, which is correct. I frequently use it. It's very possible that some of the persons who was working on the list is listening to me or to the podcast. So shout out to whoever is doing the list. And he's waiting to be. He's charged on minuscule, minor charges. There was no attempt to have Zaev even interrogated or involved in this. There was no attempt to pressure Rashkovsky to say something criminal about Zaev. Like everybody was pressured to testify against Gruevsky. All of the hundreds of people who were charged from Vimera, every time it had to go to the top. The main culprit had to be Gruevsky, even though it's something minor and completely unrelated to him. He didn't even know about this. Like one case was like a software in a public company. Like seriously doubt that Gruevsky knew about this. But in the few cases against Zaev's men, there is never an attempt to go after him. And even these relatively low charges, he was given a long sentence, but he's now facing having the sentence quashed because of this new law that greatly reduces penalties for people charged with abuse of office. He was allegedly threatening to sing like a canary, and this is why they were downgrading they're trying to have him involved in this law, which the theory is that it's adopted mainly to help Nikola Gruevsky come back in the country and then hopefully divide Vimera, but there are side benefits for SDSM people like Rashkovsky. So the list names Zaev and Rashkovsky as the corrupt contacts of this Montenegrin businessman. Nobody in the country is touching the story. Even Vimera is quiet about this, even though they were the ones who originally published the story. It's very strange. Obviously, SDSM media are not touching the story. They rather ignore it, even though if there is friction between Zaev and Kovacevsky, the current prime minister, they are not obviously going to go after one of their own. Vimera, who were allegedly, reportedly in some kind of talks with Zaev, trying to use him to divide SDSM before the elections, they are not going full bore on this story. So the poor ambassador is forced to go. She's using her media outlets like 360. She then herself gave an interview on Telma TV. She's trying to elevate the story that yes, look, we have mention Zaev. We are not. She literally called for an investigation into Zaev. She was asked by a journalist, by the Telma journalist, um, what's your recommendation? Do you recommend that that the country investigates him? She said, yes. This is what the people deserve here. People should be asking for this. She even rebuked the country for not being more active, the public, and saying, "Hey, let's investigate. Let's arrest this guy."
Yeah.
So she was rebuking us for like having given up and like, who cares? Nobody's trying to fix this country anymore. Like you messed this the FUBAR style. It's not salvageable anymore. Like, and she's like, no, let's go back into the fight against corruption mode. Yeah, let's try go after corrupt politicians. Like, dude, nobody cares. So this is a very funny, very interesting development and very funny reaction from the people in the country.
Well, speaking of corruption, now you had mentioned in our back and forth before we started recording, Mohammed Zakiri was in
Oh yeah,
court crying. What's that all about?
yeah. He's the other. So Rashkovsky was Zaev's chief of staff in the government, and then he was replaced by
Right.
Zakiri, who's a journalist, U.S. supported. He worked for Radio Free Europe, then worked for Channel 5.
State
then also,
Department sycophant.
yeah, and also an educated imam, so very, like, yeah, pretty radical on the Islamic front. And he was also, I think it's even less important charges. I mean, at least for Rashkovsky, there were serious charges. He was not charged by the prosecutors with these more serious financial abuses. I think for Zakiri, it's even less. He like approved the hiring of a consulting company about the sale of the Macedonian railroads, but just to do the feasibility study for, I don't know, some sum of money. It's a lot of money, but still. And he's charged with this. Zaev was hoping to use him to replace Dui. That he was, as an Albanian, he was named vice president of the party, one of the 5, 6 vice presidents. He was made like the face of the large Albanian contingent of voters who voted for SDSM in 2016, in the 2016 elections, in this curious switch of the Albanian electorate, probably engineered by the US Embassy, but Zakiri was declared like one of the persons who made it happen, and he got, ahead of his skis. He started saying that, well, now that Albanians are voting for SDSM, we can replace DUI, we can start investigating them. We will be the largest Albanian party, SDSM will be. And after a while, DUI were openly arguing with him, and then they decided, well, listen, we'll do away with you, as DUI was becoming more important, and SDSM was not able to replicate the astroturfed success with the Albanian electorate in 2016. Zakiri was not important anymore. DUI became very important for SDSM. So they charged him, they put him in prison, even though in the meantime Zaev was the best man at his wedding. He's like, they were that close. And Zakiri was issuing like this very aggressive threats against Vimera people before he turned against DUI during the Colored Revolution. He would like threaten Vimera, you're going to prison, you will see, you'll be punished for what you did, and la da da. And now he himself is in court. He was crying that he had family drama, that he's, has fallen on very hard times. It's so difficult for him to be in detention and house arrest. So yeah, it was another, very important message to Zaev, because he's especially seen as his own person. But also given how outspoken and aggressive he was during the Colored Revolution, it was a very interesting, very schadenfreude moment for the public, for the people who were persecuted as political prisoners under SDSM, to see this development. The Zakiri crying in prison, and Zaev possibly joining him in in the courthouse.
Wow. Okay. Well, this against the backdrop, I think, of the next subject we want to talk to about elections. So we are almost in December, and then all of a sudden we're in 2024, and elections, parliament and presidential elections, are going to be in the spring. Looks like Syriza and Dewey are moving more towards agreeing with Vumero that they should be held jointly. I keep hearing the date of May 8, I believe, which is 5, 6,
Yep.
7, 8, which I think is a Wednesday, which is very unusual because
Yeah.
Europeans, I think almost without exception, could be wrong, have elections on Sunday, in Macedonia too. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we Americans always hold our elections on a Tuesday. I'm not sure why exactly, but anyway. Um, so it looks like the possibility of joint elections, I mean, the date is less important, but the
Yeah.
intrigue, of course, is going to increase, and will probably increase the frequency of our podcast as we move closer to that. Um, and then there's the brouhaha over, and feel free to jump in there if there's anything that I'm missing on the elections. But Vumero there's supposed to be a technical government 100 days before
Yeah.
the, is it 100? It's 100 days before the first round of elections, I believe. Correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, and so there's supposed to be, because of the agreement between Syriza and Dewey, that there would be a ethnic Albanian as prime minister, because let's be honest, our friends on the left, talent, skills, merit, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is your ethnicity. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's important that an ethnic Albanian be prime minister. Vomero is saying that they want to scrap this. Bujar Osmani, the foreign minister, who's a Dewey official, saying, no, we're going to have a technical government. We're going to put a Albanian in. This is, of course, this is going to, Macedonians need to prepare for the uh, the elation and joy and the taunting that's going to start from the Albanian side in Macedonia and the region when there is an
Yeah.
ethnic Albanian prime minister, an ethnic Albanian foreign minister, an ethnic Albanian speaker of parliament, and there's going to be a lot of chest thumping and taunting, like I said, etc., from the Albanians, and Macedonians are just going to have to deal with it. And when Vomero gets into power, they can get rid of this stupid agreement and actually
Mm.
focus on the important thing, which is people with the right skills and talents and policies in government and creating and then governing. So, but that's going to happen. And as a side note, this is really frustrating me, Cvetin, because and we didn't talk about this in our offline stuff back and forth, but I go through the Twitter feed, the X feed each day. Plugging in. I plug in either Macedonia or, and I have to do this. I have to
Yeah.
plug in North Macedonia to see what others are saying. And
Mm.
the news has been dominated either by football, Eurovision, or
Yeah.
this upcoming OSCE conference, which is going to be in Skopje next week, which is going to be a gigantic event.
Mm.
And the big news is Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov coming because of the whole ban
Yeah.
on flights and things like that. I guess Secretary of State Blinken is coming, so it is going to be a big deal. But it's so hard to get through the Twitter feed, especially because of the football and the Eurovision stuff. And it's just, and most of the comments
Mm.
about from idiots, and most people that attack Macedonia have very few followers and are just complete idiots. But it's a pain to go through it. But I do it as a service to the people. I do it as a service to Macedonia. I'm always looking for the improper use of the adjective, the quote unquote North Macedonian this and that. So that's primarily why I do it. But anyway, any comments
Mm.
on elections or the fact that there will be a ethnic Albanian prime minister of Macedonia?
Yeah, it's after Montenegro
Yeah.
had one, so at one point we were going to have like four Albanian prime ministers in the region with Albania, Kosovo, and
Mm,
Montenegro, but we narrowly missed this. So as we said, the SDSM are so badly in debt to
mm,
Dewey. They realize they don't stand a chance to win the elections by themselves against the Vomero, so they're hoping that Dewey will join them in a pre-election
mm,
coalition, and this still wouldn't be enough. So they're hoping that there will be a low turnout because if you add the SDSM and DUI votes, they might fight Vemero to a even result, but you can't just add the votes in politics, right? You bring DUI on the list, you will lose a lot of Macedonians.
Right. Hopefully.
So SDSM are still desperate that they need a joint list with DUI, also with the Alliance of Albanians, try to add them on, even though they're losing support now that they're neither opposition nor they're in the government, they're no longer like appealing to opposition Albanian voters. And even then they would still need like a COVID crisis, security issue, something that would bring down voter turnout before the elections to be able to fight Vemero to an even result. And the DUI is obviously having huge demands from SDSM because they see them in a bind. And one of the demands is this thing that Zaev already agreed to, that there will be an Albanian prime minister for 100 days before the elections. So Vemero is here, and also there should be like a government in which Vemero will hold the Ministry of Interior Affairs, the police, welfare, several departments under Vemero control, or Vemero would have a say in running them to avoid them being abused before the elections, which is the same courtesy that Vemero gave to SDSM after the Colored Revolution. So Vemero says, listen, we will give up on these departments we're supposed to get, but if there is no technical government at all, this means that there is no change of prime minister, there is no Albanian prime minister. And they say not because he's Albanian, but because DUI would be the ones who would nominate him, and DUI are so corrupt, so ridiculously corrupt after 5-6 years under which SDSM were literally the junior partner in this government. So Vemero says, listen, they were bad back in our time, but this is now ridiculous. So we can't let them appoint the prime minister of the country. But this is also Vemero way of saying, trying to break the pre-election coalition between SDSM and DUI, because if DUI are not given the seat of prime minister, then they may say, listen, we're not joining SDSM in a pre-election coalition. This was promised to us by Zaev 4 years ago. So Vemero is just trying to spoil this potentially troubling development for them. A joint, practically the fusion of SDSM and DUI into one party. It will be good for Vemero in the long term, but maybe it might just save SDSM in this round of elections.
Well, and I think, as you mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, that your analysis had been that it looks like the parties are all going to go for a kind of a nationalistic bent in terms of campaigning. But that would be troubling for, DUI, if it went nationalistic. And when we say nationalistic for DUI, we don't mean Macedonia. We mean everything that is Albanian, which would really, to your point, I think, turn people off, especially citizen voters. But is that still kind of the analysis, the thought there?
Yeah, it's getting worse. This is a topic many parties are going to use. Vemero the least, actually. It's interesting. So DUI had this museum near Kumanovo with the map of Greater Albania, which was removed the day after the scandal broke, because it was inaugurated by Ali Ahmeti, which is a serious issue, and the leader of a ruling party is endorsing a map of with territorial claims on everybody in the region. Then we had the church in Tetovo practically erected a metal cross, a large cross in the Popova Shapka ski resort, next to the church in the ski resort. And the municipality of Tetovo insisted that we'll have to demolish this, even though the entire ski resort, the villas are built unlawfully, and there is a mosque built without a permit opposite of the cross. So this was made this was something that made the mayor of Tetovo look bad, Bilal Kasami. He's with the Albanian
Besa.
opposition parties, Besa. So Dewey were obviously campaigning on this issue against Bilal. They were saying, look, he's allowing the Christians. Some of the Albanian journalists even used the term shki. This is like their slur word. We have Macedonians have a slur word for the Albanians, and they have a slur word for us. Both are the sh words on
Yeah.
sh, and they're not used in polite company, but they even started using them over this issue. So Kasami, not to be left, not to be undone, he came out. He started insisting that Macedonia needs to change the anthem, the
Oh,
flag, the
yeah.
coat of arms, because they don't reflect the Albanians. And if we don't, uh, he will start using the Albanian anthem at public events. So this poor guy Stoyancha, this stupid, kind of populist, kind of nationalist person who fought in the 2001 war and was wounded. Um, he's trying to be like the nationalist opponent to Vimera. So he said he has some minor office given by Dewey and SDSM, and he said, I will go to Tetovo, I will protect the cross if Kasami tries to bring it down. I will bring my friends from the war. We will. So yeah, there is a lot of this happening. I don't see it gaining much traction with the people. People are kind of like exasperated from all of this. SDSM were trying to arrest Kasami over, or at least charge him over a map of Greater Albania during the visit of um, the Albanian Prime Minister Kurti like a few months ago. SDSM were then not only they were not able to criticize Ahmeti for inaugurating the map of Greater Albania, the same thing which Kasami did, even more directly in case of Ahmeti, because Kasami, this was somebody who came to a crowd at an event organized by Kasami with a flag. And Ahmeti himself went to a museum which has the map of Greater Albania. The prime minister was excusing Ahmeti for going to this event. He said it's like a private house, it's like a private thing. There are so many maps of greater states in every nation in the Balkans. So then Artan Grubi went, he went to an event and he was announced as the actual prime minister of the country, you know. Kovacevsky was asked also about this. He was excusing Artan Grubi, like, well, somebody said this, I don't know. So they're really, you know, the government tried to be like aggressive against Kasami like months ago and against the possibility when the Bulgarians were trying to come to the country for Goca Delchev's what was it, his birthday celebration, the honoring of Goca Delchev. That's when they had like the police out. We will protect this country, the pride of Macedonia, blah blah blah. But after that, you know, the SDSM are completely lost on this national issues. The Albanian parties are out Albanianing them each other, out being the greater nationalists one over the other, and Vomero is actually relatively reserved as well.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, Artan Grubi. I mean, he's such a young punk, and he is. He's a young punk. He
Yeah,
thinks he's hot shit on a silver platter when he's really just cold diarrhea on a paper plate. Uh, and he thinks he's going to be around forever, and he's going to go on to greater and greater things, and he might get elevated at some point to some position, but he's a useful idiot, just like all the rest of them, especially for the U.S. State Department, and one day he'll be discarded. And I mean, as I mentioned in the monologue, given the amount of Albanian crime and brazen murders, openly brazen murders during the day in malls and places like that, and Artan Grubi's car was torched a few months ago. It's not out of the realm of the possible for him to be
oh
gunned
yeah.
down. I mean, it's happened before in the region, and it's likely will happen again. And he's involved in so much crime that one day we'll see.
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely. Yeah, Vomero will try to form a coalition with Kasami, with the Albanians, This is why there is a lot of focus on this. That Kassam is also a nationalist, so it's a way for the left to try to hurt Vemera. But if this happens, if Vemera wins by enough votes and is able to form a coalition with which should probably be the smaller grouping of Albanian parties, smaller than DUI, then they will definitely start investigating DUI officials for long
Yes.
overdue corruption investigations, trying to split the party up. This is definitely
Yeah.
going to happen.
Well, speaking of small political parties, Levica, what's up with them? I mean, the antics in Parliament the other day, that wasn't. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? The one that looks like Rasputin.
Apasiev and
Sorry.
Kremov.
Apasiev, the one that looks
is
like,
the
he looks like
guy with the
Rasputin.
long hair, and
Yeah,
Kremov
but
is the bald one.
and they're the only two members of Parliament from Levica, right? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it just
Well, they're trying to change that, and that's why they're
they're
really
going to
out
be
there.
non-existent pretty soon if they continue with their antics. I mean, he was throwing papers around, and he destroyed I think a monitor, a computer monitor. I can't. What was he even protesting against?
Actually, it was an interesting development. There is a new rules of parliament document which would curb their ability of the smaller parties to filibuster, which is at this moment done by filing thousands of amendments against a law which are easy to print out and difficult
Right.
to debate. It takes so long to debate 1,000 amendments. So Levica would use this. As a result, Vimera would use this. As a result, the government would have to use this procedure of the EU flag procedure to adopt laws under a fast-track process, which the EU objected, especially after the government used this to change the criminal law in a way that they were hoping will bring Gruevski back in the country and divide Vimera. By the way, this fight has subsided. We're not seeing much of it. It seems that Gruevski is not biting. A number of cases against him, against Mialkov, have been quashed, but he's not extending the fight with Vemera, which could be the funniest development ever if SDSM passed a law helping Gruevski out, hoping that he will help them out in return, and he just left them out to dry. So this new rules of parliament were on the agenda, and they were agreed between SDSM, DUI, and Vemera. And Levica said, "Look, we will now expose the Uniparty that Vemera is actually cooperating with SDSM and DUI, and we are the ones who will block this, and we will see that Vemera will do nothing." And they started ripping out the computer monitor for the Speaker of Parliament. They were throwing the amendments they submitted against this proposal in the air, in the face of the interim Speaker of Parliament. Pasiev got out his shoe and he was banging on the amendments on the pulpit with his shoe. It was
very much a
circus.
Khrushchev moment. The Nikita Khrushchev, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's right. Oh, dear.
Yeah. But they're hoping this will help them for elections. They're trying to say, look, Vemera is the same as SDSM. We will change the name immediately. We will start arresting people. We will restore the name of the country immediately. We will start arresting people immediately. And they're hoping that they'll get 15 seats in parliament if, well, I mean, it's plausible they get 7,
really?
8, I
Okay.
think. One in each district, maybe not in the
Yeah.
Titova district, but maybe 2 in Veles, Štip. So Apasiev is from Veles. They did well in Skopje, in the urban aerodrome district. But they also have there is the rival, there is the Kumanova party, which has a similar message. We were on the left, we were with SDSM in the colored revolution, but now we disagree with what SDSM is doing with the government, but vis-a-vis Albanians, vis-a-vis Bulgarians. But we don't want to be Vemera because Vemera are corrupt. So this will probably take votes from what could be Levica votes in the northeastern part of the country. So I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 seats would be
Well, okay,
possible.
that bears watching. Now, I have to ask: were they out with Levica? Were they out protesting the other day against Israel with the Muslims?
They were on the day of the attack. Apasiev posted that image of
Oh,
a
jeez,
paraglider.
yeah,
The attackers on. Yeah,
yeah.
I know. But there was finally a protest in front of the government building, like a few hundred people, many of them Muslims, like women with the
Hmm.
hijab, etc., and some of them like very visibly far left activists. Not sure if they were Levitsa proper, but yeah, there was like a left Islamist, a red-green gathering in front of the government.
Interesting. But as far as you know, the Levica guys weren't out there.
I don't remember. I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Okay. Huh. Huh. Okay.
I don't think they raised it much after the initial
Yeah.
attack.
Yeah. It's been. Yeah. I've and I do follow news from the region as well, and it doesn't look like people have been too one way or the other have been too vocal
Yeah,
about it. They got there's enough problems in Macedonia and in every country in the region to worry
yeah.
about other than what's going on globally. The last thing I didn't even touch on. So, and this bears we haven't even mentioned the word Bulgaria, which we're contractually obligated to do. So it looks like
Mhm.
Macedonia is not moving forward with EU membership next month because they haven't. Macedonia has not agreed to the Bulgarian demands of including Bulgarians in the constitution. So that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, Pendarovsky acknowledged this. It's even like visible that when uh, when they adopted these changes to the criminal code, uh, obviously meant to help Gruevski. The first thinking was that the idea is that he will try to get pressure, uh, a number of members of parliament to split with Mitskovsky and vote for the constitutional amendments. Now it's even apparent that SDSM have given up even on this idea, and their only hope was that Gruevski will they will make this huge favor to Gruevski, and that he will not help to adopt the changes in parliament, but help split Vimera before the elections. But as I said, we are really not seeing this. It's actually, you could even argue that putting Zaev on the blacklist could be a way of the embassy to react against Zaev's possible attempts to split SDSM before the elections, much more than Gruevski actually working to split Vimera before the elections.
Okay. What else? That was a got a lot going on. Oh, I did want to say we have anything major that we left out on this podcast? Because I want to end on a high note.
Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we
I
covered
think
quite a
we
bit. I
covered this
complained
stuff.
earlier about the Twitter X feed and having to scroll through it, and there's so much stuff on football and
Yeah,
Eurovision and everything else. But the one thing, so Macedonia played England this past week in football at the stadium there, and um, came to a draw, 1-1. Now Macedonia is not going
yeah.
anywhere in terms of advancing in. Is this towards the World Cup or something else? I don't know.
This is the, I think, the
European Cup. Okay.
European Cup. The World Cup was when we
Oh, that's right.
eliminated
Yes.
Italy.
And Macedonia earlier this year got a thrashing from England. And England is still advancing, but it was a very good game. I didn't watch it. I was following it on the Twitters, on the X, and
Yeah.
they came to a 1-1 draw. Now they had the home field advantage, of course, but I know there were tons and
Yeah.
tons of English fans coming out, and they were all busily tweeting and posting or whatever it is on X. But well done to the Macedonian team in keeping England at a 1-1 draw. That was good news.
Yeah, we had the biggest success of our football back in the day, like in the early stages, was when we had a draw with England in Southampton.
Oh,
It was like 2002,
okay. Wow.
three, I don't know, with Artan Shaqiri's famous corner goal, and yeah, we've been pretty difficult for major teams like we beat Germany, we beat Italy. Now this draw with
Hmm.
England, yeah, it's really punching above our weight for not consistent enough against the middling teams, and of course we lose to England. We lost to England badly, and
Yeah.
we were beaten by Italy, of course, recently. But yeah,
Yeah.
we can
Oh,
surprise them.
well done. It was a good morale booster, I think, for Macedonians. So
Yeah.
good. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. Well, let's see. Again, like I said, this is November 26th, so we'll kind of follow the news. But as we get closer to Christmas and the New Year's, things naturally kind of slow down. Which is well, I know we need to do a wrap up. I think after this OSCE meeting, November
Yeah.
29 and 30 in Skopje. I think it's going to be at the Boris Strakovsky
Hmm.
Center, which is the only hall
Yeah.
large enough to hold the foreign ministers and all their delegations, including perhaps
Mm.
the Russian foreign minister coming to Macedonia along with the American Secretary of State. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, he's only been to Turkey since the war started, and this would be like his first visit to a NATO country uh,
Yeah.
other than Turkey after
Well,
the war, and possibly meeting. I don't think I doubt he met
Erdogan.
uh,
Oh yeah.
Blinken somewhere. I don't
No,
know.
yeah, they did meet. They, during the Ukraine war, which, gosh, we're coming up on 2 years. I think they've met somewhere, but I can't remember where. But anyway, yeah,
Probably yeah, on this
yeah,
ASEAN or
yeah.
something like
So,
that.
well, we'll
Forums.
we'll we'll kind of monitor that, and then maybe first week or so of December do a podcast and go from there.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
All right. Good
Okay.
talking to you, Svetlin.
You too, buddy. Take
Take
care.
care.